Hello everybody and welcome to the Pixelogic ZBrush channel. I am Follygon and tonight we are going to be sculpting something new, something from scratch. Well, not every time I jump on here on the Pixelogic channel, but a majority of the time when I jump on here, I'm already in the middle of a project, so I thought it would be cool to start something from the very beginning. Start up with a sphere and work on a concept by, bam, there it is, by Luigi Lucarelli. You can check out Luigi's work on ArtStation or on Instagram. I think his username on Instagram is at Hello Luigi. But if you just Google Luigi Lucarelli or Hello Luigi, you should be able to find him pretty easily. But that's what we're going to be doing tonight. Just kind of chilling out, hang out, maybe ask some questions if you guys got any. And other than that, click follow here on the Pixelogic channel. And if you guys want to check out more of my stuff, make sure my little banner's up there at the top. You can find me at, you can just Google Follygon or follow the, type in the link up there. Other than that, I also have gumroad.com/Follygon where you can check out some of my stuff that I put a lot more work into. I have some courses on here. I also have some base meshes, brushes, materials, my UI, which is kind of new since a lot of people have been asking for that. But yeah, check it all out, and I think we can go ahead and get started. Jesus, man. I just grabbed some tea, and like my throat is dying, and I need this, and apparently my brain is dying too. But shout something out in chat. Let me know that you can hear me. And let me just check to make sure we're going out on all the channels. Looks like we are. And what is going on? Aislinn, how you guys doing? Welcome, welcome. Let me refresh my stream here real quick. Awesome. Alright. I believe we are good to go. Cool beans. Cool. Alright, so we're starting up with a sphere. I've already made this into a polymesh 3D. Again, the 2D concept over here is by Luigi Lucarelli or Hello Luigi. You can find them on ArtStation and Instagram. I am Follygon. You can just Google Follygon and find all my stuff. And with that all out of the way, for those of you that are just joining us, Rithon, what's going on, man? How you doing? We can go ahead and get started. So for something like this, I am using the Spotlight tool. It's a great little tool for importing textures, or in this case, a reference image. And I'm actually going to use this. We're going to cheat a little bit. I know, cheating. All right? How could I? I have no shame. We're going to make this easier on ourselves. And I'm going to start by just shrinking down our shape and fitting the major proportions here of the head. What I'll also do is come up into my movie timeline and click on show. And then once that's done, I can realign my sphere a little bit and just click up here on my timeline. And what that will allow me to do is move this sphere all around on screen. And once I want to get that back to the same view, I can just click back here on my timeline and get that right back where I had it. So I am just going to take some time to match the basic shape and proportion of my head from the front view. Nothing too crazy. But if we look at the side view, obviously some things are getting pretty messed up here. So I'm going to have to use my big dumb brain and figure out what this shape looks like from the profile and behind. So just kind of thinking about some fundamentals like straights versus curves, and just kind of from my experience in creating characters, I'll just kind of pull some info from that, and I think we'll have a pretty easy time creating this basic head shape, especially since we're able to line up a lot of this. Juan, what's going on? And Q Lachey says shout over on YouTube. How you guys doing? I'm steeping some tea over here. We're going the green tea route tonight. Normally it's chai, but green tea, I don't want to stay up all night with that crazy amount of caffeine and chai tea. I try not to drink coffee too often, but I do love it. Alright, what else we want to do here? Let's trim up the sides a little bit. So if you're working from a reference image, and I get this question a lot, but when you only have a single image, you run into issues where you have to make some stuff up, or if the character isn't, in a perfect, let's say, T-pose or neutral stance, orthographically facing the camera, how do you figure that stuff out and get that to line up properly? How do you work with your proportions? For me, I practice a lot by just doing stuff by eye. So then when it comes time for me to align things like what I'm doing right now, it just becomes that much easier. In general, it's not, I would say that the short answer is that it's not easy. There's no easy way around it. You just kind of have to interpret what's going on with the image, pull from your personal reference library, even your mental library. And sometimes doing some drawovers can help, just getting the mindset of the designer, the original artist. I think from here, we'll play around with just moving this off to the side for a little bit, now that I have a little bit of the basic head shape in here. And we'll probably bring it back a little bit later, but I think it's just kind of getting in the way for now. I just wanted that in there, I think, a little bit for that initial part. So we got the big kind of rounded cube shape, and from here we're going to start working on building that up, probably just getting some more parts and pieces in here real quick. Let's get the neck. Next, we'll grab an insert multi-mesh cylinder. I have a custom cylinder added to this brush so that I can have a creased cylinder. Makes it just a little bit easier on me, a little bit faster. And he has a very thin, long neck. Let's also grab the body. And I'm, when I do this kind of stuff, I try to explain as much as I can, but if I go too fast on something, or if I don't explain something fully enough, just yell at me. Say, hey, go back. What was that thing you just did? Or whatever else. Just say, hey dummy. Hey dummy, go back and do that again. You did that too fast. Doom, welcome back, man. Doom was hanging out this morning over on my channel. I stream over on Twitch/Follygon with an underscore at it, at the end there. Let's see here. I'm gonna base body in. But welcome back. How are you doing? As well as everybody else joining us on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Welcome, welcome. Let's grab some simple ears to attach here, and then we'll start working on the actual facial proportions and everything else. I think we're gonna have to round out a lot of this, but for now I think I'm just gonna leave it before we put in our ears. For the ears, I actually have a custom brush, if I can pull it up here, a custom brush that I made, and it inserts some really nice, somewhat more detailed ears, more realistic, but I also have a toon style of ear that's pretty simple that I use all the time. So we'll grab those toon ears, and they're not quite the shape that we want, but they at least give us a really good jumping off point. So that's what's really important here, just having a little bit of a base. So I can start going a little bit faster here on these ears. We can get to that final result a little bit more quickly. Next, I say we just put in some base, just some basic shapes to help block out where we want our eyes, our nose, and maybe just kind of go back to align a couple things here. So we'll grab this again, and I will use the same timeline key, or actually, you know what? No, we won't, because the body will not be, I don't think it'll be in the proper place. We'll see. Let's turn back the opacity here. And just rescale that up. Wherever you put this little hockey puck icon, that's where it will scale from. It's kind of like the transpose tool in that regard. So let's see. Let's go right about there. I will slide my body up. So this is one of those situations where the character isn't, facing perfectly in this like neutral kind of pose here. He's not facing the camera orthographically. There's some perspective going on, there's a little bit of twist in his body, there's something. So things aren't gonna line up perfectly, and that's okay. So we're gonna have to, figure some of this stuff out on our own. Again, like I said, if you're having trouble, I recommend doing some draw overs in something like Photoshop or whatever 2D program you like to use. I find that to be pretty helpful. But other than that, let's just get some spheres in for the eyes. Looks like our ears could maybe sit on his head just a little bit lower, and we could probably just pull in proportionally here. When I am typically creating my characters during this early stage, I really like to focus on just getting all the parts and pieces in, and not really focusing on proportions at least too much in the beginning, because that's going to be able to change throughout the entire sculpt. But once you get all that stuff in there, it's just a lot easier, I think, to be able to find your proportions, because then you have more stuff to reference against each other. When you just have one head, or one piece of an arm, or whatever that one little part or piece is for you, you don't really have much to reference it against, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. But with something like this, we got a lot of parts and pieces that we need to get in here, and the quicker we do that, I think the more time we can save. So I'll just get a very simple eye in here, and just to get that kind of proportionally where I want it, and then from here we'll go back to our head and I think start working on proportions and just starting to build up the form a little bit more. The eyeballs are obviously protruding from the head. We'll have to do some stuff with the cavity of the eye. We'll also have to just build up a lot of this form around the side of the head as well. Probably a little bit much, but we'll get there. Next, I want to add in just a little kind of break here for the brow. Coming down the nose. And just build up some form really quick, and then I'm just going to carve in along this area. Esteban, what's going on, man? Just wanted to say hi. Well, thanks. Hello, hello. Just found your YouTube channel. Looks great. Well, thank you. Appreciate it, HQ. Everybody else go check out the Pixelogic ZBrush channel over on YouTube. They got a ton of content from past streamers, including myself. Go give them a sub if you have not already. Alright, so I've just taken some time to put in the basic position for our eyes as well as our nose here. And we'll go back to working with that over there. So we have a lot of these objects in, and obviously the shape of our head is looking pretty silly from the side view, but that's alright. Like I said, what's important in these early stages is just getting all the parts and pieces in. It's not so much about, taking the time to get everything perfect right now. I am a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to clean form, so trust me, we will get there eventually, just not right this second. Gotta take this in stride, one step at a time. So let's continue, I think, just wrapping around the form. It looks like, just based on this very faint line, I can only interpret so much here, but it looks like that shape is actually going up much higher than what I initially thought here, and maybe not quite as much of a break in the surface. So let's play around with that. We're obviously going to need to do some changing back here. I haven't really even done anything with secondary forms for the shape of the head into the brow. I'm thinking, how much do we want to do back here? Let's figure this out for a little bit. Let's just get a little bit of more depth in our Z-axis. And then for our jawline, he's got a pretty square face. So I think we'll just start by using our pinch brush and trying to get some of that in there early on. He's got a pretty bulbous nose as well, so we'll have to work on that. Zachariah, I don't know if we have any mods in chat, but I'm not sure if those got nixed or what. I'm not sure if I have the power to do that from here. I do! Goodbye, Zachariah. We do not want your eBay links. Sorry. Afternoon. Tuat Tara. Let's go with Tara. Welcome to the stream. Alright. So from the front view, things are kind of in the right position, but as we start to turn, we can even turn on perspective, into that 3/4, our silhouette's not really looking super great. And then from the profile, even less so. So we are 3D artists, right? We gotta make it look good from every angle. I know, it sucks, but that's just how it works. So let's take some time to give some love to the profile view here. Start working on this a little bit. The neck is so thin, it's gonna be a little bit of a strange kind of connection point. If you've never seen a head in the kind of like Pixar style, typically they have these really thin necks and these really wide shelf jaw lines from the back view. If you can find some reference images for something similar online, should help you out with something like this. Let's see. So it's a little bit, just like ever so slightly rounded on that top portion. I've exaggerated that a little bit just because around the eye socket right here, we're gonna have like this pinch in. Let's see. It's gonna be a little bit of a break right here at the corner of the eye, especially from that 3/4 view. So we'll be working on getting some depth. And these eyes will work out a lot better once we get eyelids and everything else in there and start worrying about all that at once. But for now, things are going to be a little bit wonky. It's what some people call like the alien phase. I just call it the blockout phase. But yeah, everything looks bad until it doesn't. Just take your time with it. This phase, like this part of your sculpt is very, very important. It's very important that you take your time and not rush things. It's never a good idea to speed ahead into those secondary forms unless your primary forms are feeling really good. You know what, I think this is going to be a lot more flat through here. The more I look at this, I would like to try to push the depth. I'd like to try to push the depth in the face as much as I can, just because of how flat that kind of feels over here. I mean, that mouth is just a little, you know, where's our damn standard? It's just like a little line in the surface, so I'd like to do more than that if we can. So we'll try to push this, see what we can come up with. Oops. What do I want here? I want to cut. Try to get a little bit of a separation here. Sculpting stylized characters is a pain in the ass to you, no fears. Well, it's definitely not easy, that's for sure. What's going on, Ramses? It's been a while, how you doing? Wish I could sculpt amazing characters. Well, you know, I was in the same place as you at one point in time. Everybody starts from the same place. 0. Actually, I think a really cool video. I say this because I made it, but that's not the only reason I say it. I do genuinely just think it's a good idea to look back on your work. And let me see here if I can scrub through to find the beginning of this. So I did a stream recently where I went back through the past 5 years of my work. And I did this because you often see... Stop playing. You often see, you know, where you are now and where you want to be, and there's this huge gap in front of you, right? And you all... I mean, at least I do, and I think a lot of other people do as well, but you often forget about the gap that's behind you from where you came from. And even if you're starting from zero, I mean, there's still, you know, you can't forget about where you came from. So I spent one of my streams last week going back through the past 5 years of my work and just showing off, you know, some of the progress that I've made over that time. So if that's something that you're interested in, you guys should definitely go check it out. It's just YouTube/Follygon. Actually, here, I'll just snatch this link and paste it here in chat for you. But yeah, like I said, man, everybody starts from ground zero. Every sculpt starts from... It doesn't have to start from zero, it can start from a base. But I think you get what I'm saying, you know? Everybody starts from nothing. So don't get too bummed out. I know it can be discouraging, but it does get better. It does get easier. At the very least. Alright, let's block out our jawline, or the basic area of where that jawline's going to be, and continue on here. Alright. I am seeing a much more kind of squared off shape down here. And obviously we're getting really messy, but that's totally okay for this stage. I like to keep it a little bit messy early on. It's very easy to clean up with a quick Zremesh, as long as we're focused on what's important right now, which is these very simplistic shapes. He almost doesn't have a jaw. The anatomy of this character is almost non-existent. His head is essentially just a pill. Big old pill shape. I would like to try getting some nicer secondary form out of this, if we can. We'll see how far we can push it. If it doesn't work, we can make it more simple. Going more simple, you know, is not the problem with this one. Tara says, I keep telling myself, don't compare your level 1 with someone else's level 100. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it, I think. Think. When I started sculpting, I didn't even know of websites like CG Society, and ArtStation didn't exist yet, and I wasn't aware of those websites, so I just kind of hung out in a bubble for a while. I did eventually find some stuff, but those people were like so many miles ahead of me. I never really posted anything. I just kept it to like my own stuff, my own social media, if I did share anything. Not to say that you should do the same. I was just blissfully, like I said, in my own bubble. Ignorance was bliss. Now I know about the great big scary world of 3D. Oh, whoops, wrong way. Let's see, I think that nose shape is pretty close. I think we might be getting more depth in the face than what we want. Like I said, simplicity is not the issue, because it's really easy for me to like knock back some of this form and say, hey, let's go more simple. Especially around the brow and nose. Let's grab a trim dynamic and maybe fill in some of this. Or just clay tubes it up a little bit. I'm trying to still keep this really rough right now. Decide what we're gonna do here. Let's see. I say we clean up our head next, after we put in some nostrils. Nostrils should be really easy. I'm just gonna use, let's see, let's do a mask this time, I think. So we can be a little bit more intentional with the shape. I'm gonna up my Dynamesh resolution, just because the polys are so stretched here. And come on, there we go. Just grab a mask pen. Let's see. We'll just do a really basic shape here. And then slide that up. And now this gives us an opportunity to adjust the rest of the form here. From the profile, oh no, what happened? Oh, that's no good. Huh. Oh my. Something's very, very wrong. All right, let's kill this and try again. Yeah, let me try closing ZBrush. Well, that was fun. This kind of froze on me. That actually happened to me maybe like a week ago, the same little error. I'm not sure what happened. I did get a quick save, I think, right before that happened, right before that error, so we should be okay. So we go in the Lightbox quick save. I think we're good. I don't think we lost anything. Yeah, that's like right where we left off. That was... So I think what happened there was I was sculpting and I like clicked right when it quick saved or something. That's the only thing that I can think that screwed up there. It was just very strange. But welcome everybody. I see that we got some new faces. A bunch more people in here now. Welcome to the Pixelogic ZBrush channel. I'm Follygon, and we're sculpting on a concept by Luigi Lucarelli. If I can get this to load. There we go. And we just had a fun little crash. There we go. Back up and running. That quick save is a lifesaver. Don't know what I would do without it. Alright, so I am going to, like I said, do a little bit of cleanup on our mesh here. So as we're working on this more and more, things are just getting a little bit messy. And there are lots of ways that you can go about cleaning up your surface, but I think for the most part we're still in such an early phase that it would be a waste of time to sculpturally sit here and, you know, plane out or fix too much of this. So what I'm going to do instead is just run a low resolution Zremesher. So to do that, we're just going to come down here, do like a 1K remesh. Give that a second to think, and possibly do a projection. I have a feeling it won't be necessary though. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like. All right. That looks As long as that's retaining those nostrils there, I think that's pretty good. So I'm not even going to project any of that information. We're just going to continue on from here. And I'm going to clean up my surface a little bit where it needs it, which is quite a bit of this. I'm not a, my characters and stuff end up being super clean by the end of my process, but for the most part, just sculpturally, I'm not super clean throughout the entire process. I like to play around in the mud a little bit. And it's inevitable that that's going to happen a little. I'm trying to think if... I think I'm pretty happy with just the roundness that I'm getting here, wrapping around the face this way. That was a really bad arrow. And a beautiful mouth. But I think I'm pretty happy with that. We have lost a little bit of the kind of crease connective area around the nose here, but that's really easy to get back in. I think the shape of this nose will probably change a bit from where it is right now. I also don't like when I get this like smooth transition between the lower portion of my nose and my upper portion of my what would be the lip. Here I guess it's just more face. But I like to keep that pretty tight, and this feels just way too thin. Feels very awkward. So we'll work on that more. But let's see up here. How we doing? Slive asks, why did you use Zremesher and what does projection do? So I used Zremesher, if you didn't see the geometry before. Let's scroll on back here. So I use Zremesher on this piece of geometry because this is currently at a little under 500,000 polys. And I'm just working in Dynamesh right now, working on the most basic shape of the head and starting to slowly move into secondary forms with the nose and eyes. We got the ears on there and some other stuff with the jawline. But you can tell that the surface is pretty dirty. So what I did was I ran a low value Zremesh, which is in Tool Geometry Zremesh. I set it to about 1K polys, which it's mirrored, so it's a little closer to 2. And I did this so that it lowered my poly count. And what happens right now, because of that lower poly count, it's only retaining the most basic shapes. So from there, I can start cleaning up the geometry more and more. And after a little bit of, clean up and polish, we get it back to where we want. Projection is the ability to take one piece of geometry and project the form or color of another piece of geometry onto that. So you project B onto A. And a lot of the time it's used for doing a retopo and then projecting high resolution detail onto a low resolution mesh. There's not anything that I wanted to keep or project from my higher res mesh onto this, just because it's so very simple. And again, we're focusing on the really primary forms here. That's what's most important right now. So we did not do a projection, but hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I described that in a way that makes sense. Let me know. Let's get some eyebrows in here. That nose is, it goes from narrow to like round really quick. And in our sculpt, that's not really the case. Our sculpt like gradually fades out a bit more. So we'll have to work on that. Let's get some eyebrows in here. For the eyebrows, I'm going to use a cube tube brush. I use this for eyelids, eyelashes, eyebrows, hair, belts, anything that would require a curve brush. I pretty much use my cube tube brush. It's a custom brush. It's available on my Gumroad, gumroad.com/Follygon. It's a pretty simple brush, and there are ways to get similar results in ZBrush, but it will not be as clean as my brush right out of the gate. For instance, you can use the curve tube brush and set the brush mod to 4, and you'll get a similar result, but your end caps will not be flat polygons. They will have a cross section of topology. It's a little frustrating to work with. Typically, before I made this brush, I would do that, and then I would delete the end caps and then rebridge the polygons, and it was a very convoluted way of what this brush does in a single stroke. So I like this brush a lot. I use it all the time. Understand, thank you. No problem, man. No problem at all. Happy to help. I think I made these too long. That's right, got our transpose line. For those that have not seen my most recent YouTube video, I went through and talked about all the secret hidden features of the transpose line. I say secret not because, you know, they're actually secrets. A lot of them, most of them are documented. Some of them aren't, but there are some really cool stuff that you, cool things that you can do with the transpose line. Like, for instance, I love using the deformation inflate, but you can inflate with, you know what, that's not a good mesh to do it on. You can actually inflate with your transpose line, inflate and deflate. It's pretty cool. You can just right click that endpoint when you're on move. But if you guys are interested in all those cool little features, check it out. It's one of the most recent videos over on my YouTube channel. Louie, what's going on, man? How you doing? Welcome, welcome. Normal says, if you're making a sculpt based on someone else's concept, what's the standard protocol? Do you have to ask them for permission? Depends what you're doing with the sculpt. If you're just making it for yourself and it's just personal work, absolutely not. You do not have to ask for permission, but I would say it's the nice thing to do. You're never going to get in trouble for saying, hey, do you mind if I convert your 2D image into 3D? I don't think anybody, I've never met anybody other than for, you know, some kind of project that they had in the works that they didn't want their work represented in a different light. So that's like the only instance that I've ever experienced someone saying, no, don't do that. Noah says, how is everything? Everything's great, man. Thank you for asking. Used your method. Worked good. Thank you. Worked go. I think you mean worked good. On projection, what settings do you change, if any? None. Typically none. Just right out of the box. The only thing I do is a projection on each subdivision level. So I'll subdivide once, then project, subdivide, project, subdivide, project, subdivide, project, subdivide, project, etc., etc., etc. Let's use that cool feature that I just mentioned about the inflation. Boom. I should use that more. I'm always scrolling down in my tool deformation palette. Our eyes are tall, so I could physically make those taller and stretch them. I like to keep my eyeballs round if I can, so that might just involve making the eyelids a little bit more pinched, I guess, on the sides. I'm not sure if that would be the right word. A little bit tighter on the horizontal axis. We'll see how that goes. Alright, so for our eyelids, we'll be using that same brush that I just used for our eyebrows. Let's look at that now. So duplicate our eyeballs so that I can just draw right on top here. These things need to be big, nice and wide. Come on. Oof. Alright. Maybe not. Continue the stroke, please. Keeps poking in there. Being annoying. But luckily, I'm going to be adjusting this a lot, so it doesn't really matter. Let's see. Let's just kind of move this around a little bit. Find out where we're going to want that to live. Eyes are really tough, so make sure you guys spend a lot of time on them. Super important part of your sculpt. Super important part of just characters in general. Your face is the first thing that everybody's gonna look at, and your eyes on your face are the first thing they're gonna look at in your face. Let's do some masking here and try to get a little bit of a better curve. Kind of a terrible angle. Let's get that to like wrap around the eyeball a little bit better. And I think we need some more depth here on the inner portion of our eye. So let's try to get that in there. Just kind of push it in a little bit with my move brush until I can see more of my eyelid. I think we have an appropriate amount of depth on the outside, though. Let me just push in here a little bit more. And then for this part of our lid, I typically try to get this plane, the one that's facing us here, to be facing, what would it be, perpendicular, I guess, to the center of your eyeball, or parallel with the center of your eyeball. If you were to draw a line out from the middle of your eyeball, I want that edge to, I want that edge to meet that line, be aligned with that. And this just has way too many edge loops. Like, it's just hard to manipulate. So we're gonna delete some where they are unnecessary. Let's see. Continue to move this around. Get this thickness feeling better. Taco Knot, what's going on, man? Yeah, it's me again. How are you doing? Taco was hanging out on my stream earlier today. We were working on something top secret. Don't tell anybody, Taco. It's just between you and me. What are the hotkeys for dynamic subdivision and solo mode? The default hotkeys for dynamic are just D and Shift D. I haven't changed those. And my hotkey for solo mode is a custom hotkey that I set up, which is just the G key. You can hold Control and Alt, click anything in ZBrush, and it'll let you put a hotkey in for it. Just Control, click, and read up here in the top of the screen, it'll say press any key combo. And then you can do that, and it'll open up that thing for you. Or activate that feature for you, whatever you're doing. You can even do it for menus, which is why I have this custom menu following my mouse from time to time. I'm just pressing a hotkey on my keyboard, and it opens up this menu. Once we are a little bit more happy with the shape of our lid here, I will duplicate it and rotate it around for our bottom lid. But I think we just need to be a little bit more clean and concise with this curve. And maybe, just because a lot of the face is getting in the way right now, really hard for me to see, so I am going to turn all that off. And this is a pretty rounded eyeball. It's even taller than it is wide, which is not common. But for this, we might have to change the way that we're gonna do this lid. I'm not really sure yet. Let's also rotate our eyeballs out just a little bit. Your eyeballs are never looking perfectly down the Z-axis. That's always very, very awkward. I think these eyes are gonna have to be huge, or they're gonna have to be pretty flat. So, I say we try to make them a little bit bigger before we go straight for the flat eyeball. Maybe a little bit of stretching. We might have to do it. I like to try to keep them round. Sometimes it's not always possible, though. Alright, let's get our bottom eyelid in there, so I'll just duplicate what I have now, and this will be the real deciding factor for us once we start working on this one. I'll just mirror that over to the other side, or rotate it around and move it over to the other side, just because it tends to fit the other eye from this angle a little bit better. Oops. And let's continue to work on that shape. And this guy, he needs a little mouth. He's feeling a little lonely down here. Alright, you know what? He doesn't have to be... You know, we can give him a... You know what? Here. Give him a little cheeky V grin. It's always a good one. So I think the eyes will have to stretch. I think in their current state, using a round eyeball just isn't gonna work. So let's grab this eye and just give it a stretch. We'll do this now while we still can. Speaking of eyes, I am going to turn off my eyelids while I do this. How do we feel about flattening that? I think we can make that work. Especially after we adjust the actual rest of the head to fit in here. Make sure there's enough room for our lid. Pretty tall here for the eyeball. Yes, Louis, that is the exact face that I was thinking of when I did that. Ooh, taco. That's an even better one. I applaud your emoticon skills, guys. Let's see. Might need to go even a little bit taller. Save my last swig there on the tea. Let's take a look-see. I do think we need to go taller. And possibly, just to make room for that, kind of plane that out a little bit, soften that transition. I'll just slide this down preemptively. Let's see, that actually looks a little bit closer. He really doesn't have too much of an eyelid really going on here, but if I can get a little bit of a raise up and then just merge it into the head and clean it, I think we'd be in a really good area to progress from there. Can definitely see a little bit of the lid up there. There's definitely some line indicating form. And stupid mouth. All right, let's grab our image one more time here. Turn down our opacity like we did earlier. If I can grab the correct slider. And we'll just scale this back up and position this about where we had it earlier. All right, so let's see here. Let's maybe tighten up some of the shape a little bit. Obviously there's a little bit of an angle here in the image, so I'm not gonna mess with that too much. Oh, our eyebrows are way too low, aren't they? And this one kind of fits the size, but the other one looks a little bit bigger, so I say we just maybe meet in the little bit in the middle there. Maybe it's more of a length thing. So get those a little bit more where they need to be, and then we need to move our eyes up. The problem is that we have eyes and eyelids that are in separate subtools. So to make this easier on ourselves, I will use the Transpose Master, which is located in your Z plugin under Transpose Master. And I will grab everything here. Whoops. And just slide it all up together. And I'm just using the eye on the right side, just because, again, that tilt in the head is making that impossible for me to symmetrically get that lined up perfectly. And then I think I'll just slide up here on that cavity or brow ridge. And maybe we could make some changes to the ears. I think, if anything, rotate them out more and then make them a little bit shorter. What say you? It's Follygon, that's right. What's going on? Last week I was Michael Pavlovich, if you guys were here. The stream didn't get updated in time. People were telling me that it said Michael. I don't think we really look too similar. Rotation was freaking out there. That wasn't very fun. Let's see here. Let's head back out to our subtools. That'll readjust all of those at once. Whoops, trying to turn that off. So that is now positionally in a little bit of a better place. I think I'll do, whoopsies, a little bit of a shirt next. Just so we make sure, shirt and maybe like a quick block out for the hair, so we make sure we have all the stuff in the right place. That should be pretty easy. Down here for the shirt, or for the body, let's see. Let's add some subdivs, and I'm just gonna combine this neck and body together. Just merge these, do a quick Dynamesh. And realign that. Let's see. And we'll just do a quick little shirt. So I'm using masks here to essentially block out where I want that shirt to go. Then you can use extraction. Typically, I don't waste time with the extraction tool because I get too impatient with trying to figure out the thickness that I want. So typically what I do is I just polygroup it after masking with Control W, and then delete what I don't need and just extract it myself manually. So that's just like a little cheat code that I do myself, but you guys can feel free to use the extraction still. Next, just to clean up my edge loop, group loops, so that when I run a Zremesh really, really low, ZBrush doesn't destroy my geometry. I want ZBrush to play a little bit nice here. And it did a decent job. I will take that. And there are some like weird points that aren't creasing maybe the way we want, which is fine at this stage because I am just going to extrude all polygons, and now I get to kind of manually choose, you know, exactly where I want my thickness to be. This Zremesh really didn't do very good. I'm gonna retry on this now that I have that set up the way that it is. I can Zremesh with keep groups on, and hopefully, whoops, maybe not. Let's do one more crease. Don't worry, I will make ZBrush do a good job. I know what ZBrush likes. I can fix it. Welcome to the stream. Says, hi, first time here. How would I go about creating characters like Sentry Studios Polygon characters? I'm a noob. I'm not familiar with the Sentry Studios Polygon characters. Maybe we can do a quick Goog. Polygon Adventure Pack. I've never heard of this. But it looks like it's pretty much all just low poly with some really simple texture maps on it. I'd probably just poly model this stuff. Whether you do that in ZBrush or not is up to you. But pretty fun. Yeah, they're pretty simplistic characters. Very low poly. You could probably, well, these are pretty specific, so you probably wouldn't decimate something like this, but probably just polymodeling it. When I resize or translate something, I have a different looking gizmo thingy compared to that line thing you see. How do I switch to using that? That is the Transpose Line. So it sounds like maybe you're a little bit newer to ZBrush, which is cool. Up here, you got Move, Scale, and Rotate, but you'll notice that they're all the same when you're using the gizmo. So to switch to the Transpose Line, you just click this button, and it'll swap between the two. What I recommend is checking out my most newest video, Secret ZBrush Features, oh my, where I go through everything that you need to know. Actually, I go through more than you need to ever know about the Transpose Line. The Transpose Line has a lot of crazy secret features. I will share this in chat for you guys to check out. I highly recommend it. The Transpose Line is incredibly powerful. It's just a matter of getting to know it. It's a pretty crazy tool. I've just been using it for so long that I am used to it. I know for people that are new, when they see this thing, you're like, what the is that? And how do I use that? How the hell am I supposed to ever use that? I've just been using it for so long I don't even think about it anymore. But check it out. I think that'll help you quite a bit in your ZBrush adventures. And I am deleting geometry right now because there's just way too much. I didn't need it to interpret this many edge loops. And crease. I thought there was a crease polygroups button. Oh, there it is. All right, so we got our really simplistic shirt. Remember I said I use that cube tube brush for like almost everything? I could use it right here. I could use it right here to create this like extra seamed area around the top of the shirt. I actually just might. Or I could extrude that. I guess either would be applicable, but this geometry isn't incredibly clean, so I think I will use that cube tube brush. So what I'm gonna do here is just take my cube tube brush and draw out my line, or my geometry. It's not doing a super hot job, is it? I can cheat this quite a bit, actually. So there are some really cool things that you can do with curve brushes, if you don't know. One of those things is that if you have open geometry like this, you can click and drag a curve brush, hold the shift key, and it will go all the way around. Amazing, right? That's a really easy and quick way to do that. This works on anywhere where you have an open face. You can actually use this to, you know, if you're trying to get something around a wrist for a strap or something like that. You could temporarily cut the wrist and then do something like what I just did here. My brush, because it's a tri-parts welded brush, it actually doesn't seam back up in the middle, so that's why I wasn't going to do it this way, but this should work. Let's see, I want this, I'm grabbing the wrong slider. I'm trying to make it smaller but thicker, just like that. So the way to get around this not welding in the middle is to take this geometry. I'll just scoot it over to the left ever so slightly, just like barely at all. And then I'll run a mirror and weld function. And now this is all, you know, sealed up here. And let's get this flush with the bod. Same for the actual shirt, I guess. I probably should have aligned the shirt first and then added this on top, right? But that's okay. Just a little bit of nudging of some polygons. Nothing too crazy. Come on back. And I'm just going to use move back face masking very quickly. Fill that in. Hey, and there we go. We got our little extra seam piece up there. No problem, Ravy. My pleasure, man. For the neck, instead of just having this as a tube that slots on right up there, let's get a little bit more form here, so I'll just fill this in based on what I'm seeing there. Obviously, you know, in realism, there's a lot more connecting in the back here higher up. You get a little bit of an angle if you look at the profile view, just because of where the traps connect up to the neck a little bit. Slap on there. Holding tight. So I can see like a little bit of a line coming through here, so that can maybe represent that, and I might be able to get that in there a little bit more. I take everything I can get when I'm working on something so simple. So to do that effect, I actually have a sculpt where I did this recently. Well, bam, this dude right here. So I've kind of pinched in a little bit around this area. So I'm gonna do almost the exact same thing. That's just my art station, by the way. If you guys want to check out some more, there is a link below. Or actually, no, there is not. I lied. Sorry. There's a link below on my channel, artstation.com/Follygon for that. But we're just going to pinch in a little bit here and get a little bit of a better separation. Transitioning between the neck and the rest of that body. Aries Lopez, what's going on, man? How are you doing? The Roman god of war? Which one is? I believe Aries is Roman. Is that correct? Or is Aries Greek? It's been a while since I've read Percy Jackson, okay? Alright. Getting a little bit just messy in general throughout here, but let's leave that for now. Get back up to our head and plop some hair up here, because that's something we need to do. Let's grab our head and duplicate it, just so I have something to insert the geometry on. There are a lot of ways to go about blocking out hair and creating these crazy shapes. I would probably spend some time really cleaning up some geo, doing something really simple, something with like a cube tube brush, or probably more than likely for this, probably the curved tube, just so I can get something a little bit more round. But to at least start, I think what I'm going to do is get a little bit of a just top portion of the hair here. Let's see. So his hair is pretty high up on his head, so instead of probably putting that up so high, I'll probably square off the front of the forehead a little bit more so it doesn't feel so awkward. This is why it's so important, like I mentioned earlier, to get all those parts and pieces in early on, because it really does help you figure out the proportions for everything else. And then for the rest of this, obviously, we don't want his hair going through his ear. That doesn't make any sense. So we will turn on transparency, make sure that that's good there. Looks fine to me. We'll just fill in some of this. And then again, you can use the extraction method, which I think we'll do just to make sure that for those that are a little bit newer that don't know what that is. Extract right here. By default, it's a little bit thick, so I will set this to, I think, 0.001. And click on accept. And this is pretty pretty thin, but you know what's really easy to fix that is that little trick that we looked at earlier with inflating. Hey. And this is obviously super messy, but that's how everything starts off, super messy. And just take some time to clean it up. Really focus on those basic shapes. This is all over the place. So, to make this a little bit easier on us, let's run that Zremesher really low again. Do the same thing that we did on our face, as well as that shirt. I do this a lot. That probably simplifies the shape a little bit too much, which isn't the end of the world, but doesn't make it super clean. Let's try just a little bit of a higher res, like 1K or so. If this doesn't work, I'm just gonna step back and we'll just leave it how it was. Actually, you know what? Here, let's do that, actually. We'll stick with the thick, grody hair, because what we're going to do next is mask off this outer shell and start shaping up our hair. I'm gonna turn off symmetry and just start pushing and pulling all this stuff around into this basic shape. Just to fit the most basic form here. Start off from the front view. Obviously, that feels super crazy and silly, so we're gonna have to do a lot to fill in a lot of this information. His hair is all over the place, and we just want to get something started here. So let me just fill in some of this. Just using a clay tubes brush. Start getting some more volume in here. And if your polys are getting super stretched like mine are, that means it's probably a good time to start dynameshing. It looks like most of this is swooping back, and it honestly looks like, here, we'll take this guy, flip him back over here, scale that. When I start on hair, I typically do something pretty similar to what I'm doing right now, where I just get the basic shape in Dynamesh, and then I can come back later and start cleaning that up more. And just fill in that basic silhouette. Let's run a Dynamesh. 128 should be good. We don't want to go super high res here. The lower the better, honestly. The important thing is to not get caught up in trying to make this look great right now. That's really not our goal. Our goal is just to get these most basic primary forms. Like I showed you earlier, cleaning up your geometry is pretty easy. Making it look good though is not. Takes some time. So let's take some time to push and pull some of this around and get this a little bit lower on the forehead, just from the front view here. And then after we get some of this kind of headed in the right direction, I will show you what I do for kind of next steps in this kind of thing. So from here, what I'll do is I'll take my mask lasso tool, which is a nice, just quick masking brush, and I'm going to split this into some of the main segments that I see. So I see one kind of main segment wrapping down and around here. So I'll just mask that off and then press Ctrl W, and that will polygroup that. And then I will grab that, Ctrl Shift click it, and split it off. And then the next one here, this is kind of all like one or two separate segments, so maybe we can do two separate ones here. That's probably fine. Do the same thing, split that off. Do the same thing over here, and we'll just try to do this quick. I don't think we're gonna have enough time tonight to sculpt up this entire hair, but we'll be able to have a good kind of start here for the process so you guys can see what's going on. So after we get that all kind of split off into the different sections, I'm just gonna Dynamesh. Again, I'm not super worried about this looking great, more so just about getting it into these different separate segments. From there, then I can start really cleaning up and thinking more about the directionality. This main swoop seems to be coming out from the top and then swooping back. I don't know if it's really coming forward too much, but I don't think it would hurt to have that in there. So just kind of soloing that and thinking about that swoop back, that main curve, and how we can shape that up. And let's see, let's try to do one of these like pretty clean, just so you guys can see the full process, and then maybe we can leave the rest a little bit junky and then go back to our face for a little while. So I think I will, let's make a group here for our hair so I can toggle that all off except for the one that I'm working on. And then we'll just work on this one segment. If you guys have seen processes for working on fiber mesh hair, it's kind of similar, I guess, if you think about it in the way of like polygroups and kind of sectioning off the hair into segments, but I start with one really big shape, just keep it really rough, try to fill in the major forms, just like you would block out really anything else. And then from there, it's just a matter of taking the time to really clean up and split off those segments, get something nice and clean, and then continue on from there. What's so important to me during this phase, though, this early phase of block out, is the silhouette. So I'm really looking at this curve here, how it's just one clean swoop of an angle all the way down through here. So we got one line, just curving all the way down, and then on the other side, it's a little bit more, let's see, a little bit more of an S curve. It starts off a little bit tight and then a little bit more gradual and flat. And that's just from the front, right? We have to interpret the rest of this as well and get this all looking good. So let's try to do that a little bit here. I think I'll probably let's do a quick little test here. Just for this segment. Get that flowing in the right direction. I like to use a pinch brush to help define some of my plane breaks. So you might find that a little helpful for you as well. And after a little bit of tweaking, we can do exactly what we did on the rest of our geometry, which is remesh it down pretty low, so that we can get something that's a little bit easier to work with. And this is a pretty crazy shape, and I think, you know, from the front, we're starting to match the silhouette a little bit closer, but there's still, you know, if we wanted to go for 100% accuracy, there'd be quite a bit of work to do there. And then we still have a bunch of junky hair that I think we need to do a lot of work on if we want to get that up to a more finished level. I would also start rotating these back quite a bit more to work on our just silhouette from the profile. I wanted to mainly build that up from the front so we could fit that silhouette and then go from there. But let's see here. I'll make this one the top part of that group. If you guys don't know how to do this, you can create start groups in ZBrush. Let me delete this old piece here. And they essentially work like collapsible folders at this level. So for instance, if I have the body here, I can click that icon and make a start group for all these subtools. And I'll make a new one here so that when I click this eye icon, I can toggle all of that off at once. We can toggle it back on really quick. pretty nice for just toggling stuff on and off. And then you can just click again to delete those start or end groups. My subtools aren't, you know, I don't have a ton of subtools right now, so I'm not super concerned about it. I think it's fine. But I will do that for our hair, so we don't get super distracted here while we go back to our eyes. I say we do some more work on our eyelids. We definitely have the kind of taller aspect going on a lot better right now, so that's good. Depending on how quick we can do some of this in the face, we can maybe go back on up to our hair. But I'm glad that we were able to start something new tonight. That's the thing that I get asked about the most when I join up on the stream. Normally I'm in the middle of something, and everybody's like, hey, I want to see the beginning. I want to see how you started everything. And if you are joining us a little bit late, no worries, guys. Everything gets uploaded on the Pixologic ZBrush channel from here on their stream. And everything from my channel also gets uploaded on mine when I stream. So if you do jump in a little bit late, check out the YouTube channel for all the recorded VODs. Let's pull this shape all the way through. I'm going to be blending that. It's getting a little bit too thick there. At this stage, I would probably consider merging my eyelashes into the head. Eyelids, sorry. Let's get this all organized a little bit better. We kind of lost track of things. We got our head, eyes, a bunch of junk hair, ears, brows. There we go. Much better. All right. Let's do a pass on some of these other objects, make sure we're getting up to a good level here with our ears. We obviously need some more form pulled out for our little tragus. It's that little bump on your ear right in front of your ear canal. He's got a long one, much like his ear shape there. Pretty interesting ear shape. Didn't know about the folder thing? Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? They're not really folders, they're, you know, they're just start groups is what they're called, I believe. And then you can click this auto collapse button, and that will actually collapse your groups as well, which is pretty sweet. I use that when I have a list of like 30, 40, 50 plus subtools. Once it starts getting a little higher, we only have like 13 right now. It's nothing. Nice and easy to work with. You know what? I actually like that shape over there a lot more. I am just going to fill that in and close that gap, because why not? It's not anatomically correct, but do I care? No, I don't. I think much closer. I actually just like that ear over there quite a bit more. It's a little bit more shapely. His ears are just drawn a little bit different from one side to the other. I like the one on the other side. a bit more. All right. Now, good old Beanhead here has a very simplistic head shape that I tried to make a little bit more 3D. And I think that's fine, but I think in the jaw shape, I don't really know if it's super worth having a lot of that in there. Sorry, little V-mouth. We're gonna have to get rid of you for a moment while I look at the surface here. So he's got like a little bit of blush going on here. So what I'm going to do is say that is where his cheekbone is, maybe. And use that information to hopefully figure this out a little bit better. Maybe get a little bit more thin around here, around the eye. And if we can, whoops. He doesn't really have much of an eye socket, I wouldn't say. It's pretty much flat from what I can tell from the concept, but I'm trying to push the 3D aspect of that a little bit harder. What would be the fun in just making it flat? It'd be easy. But damn it, we don't want easy. We want it to look good. From all angles. That includes the back. Oh, what do I want to do back here? Our neck is so thin. Normally, the neck fills in a lot of the information back behind the jawline, and a lot of that blends into the neck, but our neck is so tiny and small. Not really the case here. Whoops. We're gonna hop into Transpose Master. Hold on, let me turn on all our crap for our hair. I'm gonna go into Transpose Master. And then we're gonna slide everything for our body and hair back. Our body and neck back. And maybe slide our head forward. I mean, either or, it really doesn't matter. They both get the job done. Go right about... That looks pretty good. We'll do that. T-pose back. And I pretty much always delete my T-pose meshes unless I'm going to reuse them. Just because I don't have much of a purpose for saving them. And they just clog up your file with extra data. let's try figuring out this jaw a little bit more. Right now it's pretty junky and doesn't super exist in the 2D, so we're gonna have to make some stuff up. It's okay, that's always fun, right? Let's see. I'm gonna mask that off and squish it. And this line here is just super tight, which is okay, but I think I would prefer it if it were a softer transition. Just kind of round it into here a little bit. There's like a little bit of a soft transition. Still feels like more around here towards these bottom corners. I think we need to square or flatten this out a little bit more. Yeah, I think so. Round out all the things. But we're starting to get some nice shapes, that's for sure. Not everywhere, but we're getting there. That's what I like to see, more than anything else. Things really starting to come together. For this nose, I think I'm just gonna define a little bit of this plane break to help me figure out what I want to do here from the profile. Might be just squishing this up a little. And kind of square this off. I think a lot of my issues here are just with how narrow some of this stuff is. Definitely a lot closer from the front view. That really starts to break down, I think, from the side. This is the kind of stuff that I obsess over. But it's worth it in the end. So now we're getting a little bit more of a clean sweep up through there, which I greatly prefer. I like to use this function a lot with the pinch brush. If you hold Alt, you get a little bit more of a pinch in here. I use this to define my planes all the time. So hold Alt. And I'm also using Lazy Mouse as well. If you guys don't know what Lazy Mouse is, it's in your stroke menu, which I have docked over here for my convenience. You can turn it on just by toggling under Lazy Mouse. And then here are my settings that I use. There's a bunch of different sliders in here that change the way your brush reacts a little bit differently with the Lazy Mouse. But I use 0.01 for the lazy step, and I pretty much always keep lazy snap on 0. And the lazy radius I set at pretty much around 100 for most things that I do, unless I need it to curve a little bit more sharply, more quickly. I think I am going to get a little bit more volume here. It's starting to feel a little flat. It's a little bit more rounded here as well. Kind of all around. All around, more round. And I say we merge down our ears and our neck, and possibly our eyelids. Wanted to move the forehead forward a little bit more, just because it was feeling like it was sliding back really far. This definitely helps. And it will definitely help with the hairline once I turn that back on. Let's see, where are our ears? Do we have subdivs? Just delete those. And we'll do a quick Dynamesh here, make sure this is all working. And our head, merge down, grab our ears, our head, and our body, if we can. We'll get all this stuff in one subtool here. Mad Magnus, what's going on, dude? How you doing? I'm sculpting a jelly bean of a human right now. Those ears are pretty close to the surface there, aren't they? Meh. That's fine. We'll leave them. But we can do a little bit of blending between our ears and our neck. Well, not our ears and neck directly, but our ears, head, and our head and neck. And hopefully blend up through here just a little bit, so that this doesn't feel like it's just stuck on there. That's, I think, one of the main reasons I'm not liking the shape of our jelly bean. It'll be easier to work on once I remesh that. Whoa, come on. I'll leave that for now. Doing some work. Sounds like fun. What are we working on? I feel like most people that hang out on art streams are typically artists themselves. I don't know if that's true. It's definitely not true for everybody, but I find that a majority of people that I talk to seems to be the case. Oof, it's looking pretty grody. We'll remesh that in a little bit. eyelids. Could use a little bit more TLC. Let's just get these really, really close to our surface. Let's say something like that. Add in a few subdivs so that we actually have some form there after we Dynamesh it. If they're just the low res, it's not going to work the way we need it to. And then I can merge those down too. Oh boy. Merging all the separate pieces of geo together now. Doing some high-res stuff for Royal, or Realm Royal. I think that's the sequel to Clash Royale, or Royale. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Got you in your bud. See what you did there. Digging your shapes. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Pretty much all the stylized stuff. That's all I do. Nice clean shapes. All right, let's I don't think I Dynameshed the eyelids. It's fine. I'll just Dynamesh the eyelids. And how are we looking here? Let's go ahead and do a remesh. I'm not even going to use polygroups for this remesh. Totally fine without it. It's not super necessary at this stage, I don't think. Oh, I don't know. We'll just aim for the default 5K. No. Oh my gosh. Holy crap, guys. It is like... time has flown by. This happened on my stream this morning. I was streaming on my channel. And I got done streaming, and I really wasn't even paying attention to what time it was. And I streamed for like almost 4 hours this morning without... like, I just blinked and it was gone. Crazy how that can happen. Time flies when you're having fun, but Zremesher stands still apparently. Look at that little progress bar. He's not moving at all. What happened? Oh no, this isn't good. Quick little 5K remesh, I think is what I said right before I clicked that button. It should be fine. Should be. If you're joining us here a little bit late in the stream, welcome to the Pixelogic ZBrush channel. If you're new here, definitely click that follow button. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Follygon. I stream here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. EST, and I stream over on my channel at noon EST on Tuesday through Friday. And on Fridays, we do live critique sessions. So if you guys want to get your stuff in, that really just froze, didn't it? If you get, what? I just clicked and it decided to complete. That was crazy. I think it was done. It was just like graphically frozen. That was weird. But this Friday on my channel, twitch.tv/Follygon with an underscore at the end, we do live critiques. If you want to get in on that, shoot me an email, follygon@gmail.com. And you too can get your sculpt or 3D model critiques live. And then everything gets uploaded on my YouTube channel after that. So if you can't make it, no worries. I think last Friday we critiqued 10 different models. It was a lot, but it was a lot of fun too. Let's do one more subdiv and project. Oh boy. I don't know what happened with that Zremesh. That was so weird. That maybe happened to me like once before. I just clicked and it was fine. I thought when I clicked, normally what happens, if I click here, it'll probably do it. It goes all gray like this and it says, oh, do you want to close it or wait? That's what I thought was going to happen. Alright, now we're going to go through and clean up some of the poopier surfaces. Very technical term. So this is the kind of shelf-like jaw that I was talking about that you see a lot on stylized Pixar-esque characters. Really anything kind of similar to what I'm doing. Because they have these pencil-thin necks and these big heads, and it doesn't really make sense, but it's not an angle that's really seen, and a lot of the time it gets covered up with like hair or there's something that hides it. Alright. And clean up some more transitional areas here that we just dynameshed together. Right around that here. And let's see. Look at that eyelash. It's just like this little loop right there. Not much of anything, really. Let's see if we can do an eyelash. I'll use our trusty friend, the Cube Tube brush. Available for one whole doll hair over on my Gumroad. Gumroad.com/Follygon. Check it out. Get 4 curved brushes for $1, or 1 doll hair, as I like to say. Oh, that's way too thick. We gotta turn our draw size down. And we'll make that work. Really is just in that top little segment there. It's pretty funny. But visually, it kind of works. I don't know. I might extend it a little bit more. What time is the critique stream? It's on Friday at noon Eastern US time, which is -5 GMT, which is when the sun is highest in the sky. No, I don't know. That's all I got. This time of year, probably not. Alright, let's change the angle a little bit. And we're going to be thinking about thick to thin on this piece quite a bit. So we want that to taper back as long as the angle is correct here, which it's not. So we'll adjust that. I'm just going to use my move backface masking to really just push that into the eye. A lot of the time when I'm doing eyelids or eyelashes, I will just keep a flat plane while I work, and then I'll extrude it after I shape it up, because it's a little frustrating to work with something three-dimensional when you're really trying to get a nice nice like thick to thin, and think about these different planes of the shape. Ooh, come back. It's like basically all this slash is though. Pretty simplistic. Let's do some quick little material application. Just sampling some quick colors here. Oops. Typically when I poly paint stuff, I'll use like a really low RGB value. Whoops. And just kind of apply this very, very lightly. I want to go a little bit darker on the face, I think. But let me just get in some of the little blush here in the cheeks and the tips of the ears. And let's just do a gentle kind of pass here on everything. Might be moving that neck back a little bit more. We'll worry about that in a moment. And another thing that you can do that's really cool with poly paint is you can insert a kind of what would you call it, like a percentage infill, I guess. So I wanted to do something that was this base color but like a little bit darker. So let's say I just, you know, grabbed this. If you grab this and you want to fill in this color, you can do that, but I don't recommend doing it this way. Instead, what I recommend is turn down your RGB intensity, and essentially when you click fill object, it looks at this number and it says how much percentage do you want to fill in on your object for that color. And in this case it's set to 10, so it'll fill about, you know, 10% of that value in there, and we're starting to get a little bit more of a nice skin tone here. Feels a little bit pale, and in 3D I think that looks, you know what, I don't think it looks bad. Let's go like a little bit in between. Let's go like right about there. That looks pretty good. And then for the eyeball, we've got a couple different greens going on here. Ooh, our eye, we stretched our eye, that's right. Which makes this harder to do. Could try to cheese it a little bit. I love cheesing. Our eyes feel like they're bugging out. I'm gonna adjust these while I can and just go for a flatter eye. I think at this stage it just makes more sense. I wanted to do a more round eyeball, but it's just really not working out. And that's okay. Let's go into Transpose Master. You know what? Is this as bad as it feels like? Yeah, for sure. Especially from that 3/4 view. To get these eyes to appear flat, for if you wanted a round eyeball, you'd have to make these eyes huge. They would definitely be interpenetrating each other on the inside of this mesh, which isn't, you know, terrible. It's not like that's annoying. Doesn't really affect too much. It might be a little bit if they're like crossing the symmetrical plane, depending on how you work with them. But let's fix our top of our eye real quick. We'll just make this more flat. That's never what I want to hear. Let's make something more flat. Not for 3D. Not in my ZBrush. That's okay. We'll make it work. Just grab a big old move brush and come on through and adjust the shape of our eye there. More flat. Make sure we're still covering up our eye pretty well. How would eyes like these work for animation? So like I said, you could do a really large round eye. It would just have to be pretty dang large to make them look more flat. There's a really interesting video, maybe somebody knows what I'm talking about off the top of my head, but I don't know the link for it, where it's showing how they animated the eyes in Zelda Twilight Princess, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. And they used textures, animated textures. So that's one way. It's another way you could do something like that. You could also just have supportive geometry that actually, you know, works for the lid and everything else. You wouldn't have to do a texture for that. I think they might have done textures for the lids in Twilight Princess. I can't remember. Noob here, by the way, so ignore if that's a stupid question. No, not at all. No such thing as stupid questions. I take that back. There are stupid questions, but that was not a stupid question. There's no stupid questions, only the question that's never asked. No, that's not true. That's a lie. There are stupid questions. I've asked a few of them in my time, so I know for sure. But never be afraid to ask a question. Everybody starts at 0. And that head definitely lost some of the character by getting rid of some of the volumes in there. Obviously, you know, it looks dumb with the eye squashed, but I don't know, it was feeling alright before. But I think, just in general, going for the more squashed eyeball is just a better idea, so. Let's see here. Let's turn on perspective, just to look at this from the 3/4 angle is what I mean when I say that, by the way. I'm looking right here at this kind of silhouette. Let's try that. Oh, forgot to turn off solo mode. I do that a lot. A lot of the time my poly paint just gets in the way and I need to just work sculpturally. I'm just trying to make some large form changes. It's typically a lot easier for me. Alright, so back to what I was going to do for the eyes. Like I said, I'm just going to cheat these probably. And not do that. Create a mask at about the size that I need. Something like that, sure. And extract some geometry. Ew. I know. But it works pretty well. And there's a pretty cool thing we can do with edge loop group loops. After that's done calculating. Check this out. Bam. Oh. So we can get some actual geo for this. Pretty cool. Maybe run a close holes if we want that to be solid. Doesn't necessarily have to be. And now we can poly paint this up and go from there. Actually apply a little bit of a different material here. Alright, so that's how that's shaping up. Speaking of shaping up, I don't understand high to low poly texturing workflow. Don't understand high to low poly texturing workflow. What about it do you not understand? It's so hard for me to like select anything accurately with my mouse. And then if we wanted to, we could even do like another piece of geometry for the pupil. I don't know. We don't have to though. If I'm doing something for like 3D printing, I will often do that just so it's easier to split colors later on. If you guys have seen my video on setting up stuff for SLS full color printing, you'd know what I'm talking about. Let's see, where's our gross blackout of hair? This stuff is a mess up here, isn't it? That's okay. I like to keep it messy, until I don't. Wrong material. Well, it's starting to look like the character. Slowly but surely. Other than the hair being super messy. We haven't really spent too much time there. Speaking of time, I'm a little bit over right now, but shh, don't tell anybody. We'll be fine. A little bit longer here. Let's do one last little overlay. Give some time for some people to ask some questions here, if there are any before we bounce on out. I'll answer what I can. Oh, I think I made that too big. Let's see. Maybe not. I don't know. I cannot get that to line back up now. Maybe too small. Oh, there we go. You know what? I would say that the only thing I would change right now, at least, is I scaled down the ears a little bit and played with some of that. But other than that, I might make the face a little bit more narrow. Play with the shape around the eyes some more. I don't know. There's a lot of room here for improvement. But, oh, you know what? We don't really even have a mouth, do we? I guess we can put a little mouth on this guy. Here. Now I just carved this in very quickly with a damn standard brush. Whoops. I'm going to use my mech cut brush though to define the planes of his mouth ever so slightly more. Pretty simplistic character, pretty simple mouth. It's just a line, so I'm not going to take the time to do a mouth bag or anything like that. We'll just keep this nice and simple right on top. Just enough to give us some shadow. My only wish is that we had more time so we could work on this dude's hair and the shape of his eyes a little bit more, because the shape of the eyes, since we've started tweaking more and more here, it's kind of gotten out of whack. But like I said, eyes take a long time. You know what? Characters take a long time. And everything can look good with enough work. Just takes time. A lot of time, typically. Ooh, that hair, though. Isn't that fun? Ooh, got a nice little hole up here. It's all pushed up towards the front. It's cutting through back here now. That's awesome. Oh my god. All right. Well, I think that's going to be a good place for us to stop tonight. I'm going to say thank you guys for coming and hanging out here on the Pixelogic channel. Make sure you click that follow button. And real quick here, what do we got? Can you make this model low poly and keep the detail of your poly paint? And not without a texture map. Only with a texture map. Right. That's the only way. Just because with poly paint, it's vertex assigned color, so it cannot work on some of the lower res. You can't get as much resolution out of it. Depends on your the resolution of your geometry. But yes, that's gonna be all for tonight. Like I said, again, I am Follygon. You guys can check out more of my stuff just by googling Follygon, Follygon.com, my YouTube channel, my art station, my whatever. The main one I want you guys to check out, though, if you don't mind, gumroad.com/Follygon. I'll share a link here in chat real quick. I have a bunch of stuff on here that I put a ton more work into than I do here on my streams. A lot of the time, I just kind of decide what I'm going to do about 5 minutes before I stream. That's not true. I put a little bit more thought into it than that. But I put a lot more thought into the courses that I have here on my Gumroad. If you're brand new to ZBrush and digital sculpting, I have a quick start course to get you up and running. And then I have some more intermediate and advanced stuff as well. I also have some base meshes. I always flub the word base mesh. It's a tongue twister for me for no reason. I got some brushes, materials, my custom UI, all the stuff that I sculpt with professionally, including that cube tube brush that I kept mentioning. Here it is. You can get that and a few more brushes for a single doll hair. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful night, and I will either see you next Tuesday here on the Pixelogic channel at 6 p.m. EST, or on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/Follygon with an underscore at the end. It's somewhere up here at the top of the screen. But you guys, again, have a great night. Studio Mochi, Doom, Render Me Gone. Awesome name. Yep. You guys have a good night. Thank you, man. Thanks, studio. Some cute grills. We'll do some cute grills in the future for sure. Absolutely. Yep. Thank you. Oh my god. I'll tell a story about some cute grills on my next stream. All right. See you guys.